welcome back to another H&R Lifestyle video. So for today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys a little bit of a chocolate chip cookie recipe. I will be doubling my recipe, so a little bit of a disclaimer. I will be putting in the video the measurements for if you guys want to make a single batch, and then I will put my measurements for the double batch. But to start off this video, I thought I'd share with you guys the shopping list so you guys can see all of the ingredients you guys will need. So let's just get on into the shopping list. So the first things you guys will need, or I guess everything you guys will need, is right on this list that I have written out for you. So you will need all-purpose flour, baking soda, salt, unsalted butter. Unless you like really salty, then definitely choose salted butter, but I do not like that much salt, so unsalted butter is the route I am going. Light brown sugar, eggs, pure vanilla extract. You could use the fake stuff, I just choose not to. And then semi-sweet chocolate chips, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. So moving on to a wide spread of all of the ingredients that I have set out, I have my 2 bowls, because of course you need 2 bowls. I have my sugar, my butter, my vanilla, my brown sugar, my baking soda, my eggs, my mixer, and of course, my chocolate chips. And then as you move over here by my stove, I already have a baking spray on my cookie sheets. Now these aren't actual cookie sheets. These are just the pans that I choose to use. And of course my cooking spray, which I will give a close-up look at it for you guys. So yeah, here is my layout. Oh yeah, and of course I have this big bag of flour down here. Okay, so first things first is you're always going to want to start off with, of course, preheating your oven. So you are going to preheat your oven to 350. So I'm just going to go, of course, I'm baking. So I'm going to press bake. And of course, it's already preset at 350 always. And just press start. That is the first step. The next step is you guys are going to need baking sheets or cooking sheets or whichever pans you guys choose to use. These are the ones that I choose to use. Now, as you can see, I've already got my cooking spray sprayed on, but you guys can use parchment paper too. It's just I don't have any, so this is the way that I am going to go. So I'm going to quickly show you guys the cooking spray that I did use, just because most people are always interested in that. So just a little overview, this is the baking spray that I do use. It is a non-stick baking spray, and of course this is like butter, so you're not using like an oil one. So this is the perfect one, and this is the one that I choose to use. Okay, so now that I have the spray put on, and I have my tripod all centered in whichever, the next step you are going to do is I'm just going, because I think that the spray kind of goes on in rather spurts rather than actually spray the full thing. So what I always go and do is I take my paper towel and I just break a piece off, just whatever squareage it is. This one is like a big square. So the step that I'm going to do is, of course, you guys see that I have my baking spray, and this, of course, you don't have to do, of course, like I said, you can use parchment paper. What I'm going to do is just spread this baking spray all over to make sure that every inch is covered, just so then there is no cookies sticking. And, of course, this paper towel isn't going to soak this all up because, of course, it is like a greasy butter type of spray. So that is the next step, and let's just move on to starting to make the cookies. Okay, now moving on into the first step of getting your ingredients together and getting these cookies on the go. So the first thing that you're going to add in a smaller bowl, I mean 2 medium bowls, one a little bit larger than the other, but of course you're going to start off with your smaller bowl. If you were doing a single batch of cookies, so 1 batch of cookies instead of doubling it, of course, like I said at the beginning of this video, I am doubling my recipe. So if you guys are doing a single use, you guys are going to be using 1.5 cups of flour. I am going to be using 3. So here's my 1 cup, 2 cups, of course, the 3rd cup. Now, usually you would sift the flour and the baking soda and the salt together, but because I don't own a sifter and I just think that that's a lot more extra work, I basically just stir it together and kind of make it poofy. You guys will see in just a second. Then you guys are going to take your baking soda, which is the next thing you guys are going to add. And like again, I'm going to be saying, of course, always, if you guys are not doubling it, you guys will be using 1 teaspoon. So I have my teaspoon measurement here. You guys will be using 1 teaspoon, but of course, since I am doubling it, I am going to be using 2 teaspoons of baking soda. Here's the 1st teaspoon, the 2nd Thing that you guys will be adding in the first bowl is your salt. So I just use this great value salt just because it has a bigger opening, and I will show you that quickly. Just because it does have a bigger opening, so it's easier to get the ingredients out rather than spilling it all over the place. So again, if you guys are just making a single batch of cookies, you guys will only be using a half of a teaspoon of salt. So of course I have my half of a teaspoon measurement. And since I am doubling it, I will be using 1 full teaspoon, but I'm going to be showing you a half of a teaspoon and then another half. Because I don't like mine super salty, I'm just going to add a little bit less. Of course, like I said, if you guys like salt, definitely add the full amount. But that is 1/2 of a teaspoon, and we're just going to add the other half. And of course, I don't fill it all the way because, again, I'm not a big salty person. So there's your, of course, since I'm doubling, that is that. So now we're just going to move on to the next step. See you in just a quick second. So now that we have our 3 ingredients together, we have our flour, our baking soda, and our salt, we are going to take a fork because, of course, usually you're supposed to sift it, but I don't have a sifter, so this is the best route that is going to go. You're going to take a fork, and of course you're going to stir this together, and of course, like I said, you are supposed to sift this. So if you are going to sift it, add all of the ingredients in your sifter and sift them all together. But since I don't have one, the fork is the best option, and it's all going to get mixed up eventually anyway. Plus I'm an amateur baker, so you can't expect much. But I think a fork works fantastic for this step just the same. It kind of gets a little bit finer, I find. You're not just stirring it with a spoon. It is getting the finer qualities of it as it would if you were sifting it. Of course, it's not going to get as fine as you were if you were sifting it. But, again, I don't have a sifter, so the fork, and just make sure you give it a pretty dang good stir, just to make sure that it is all evenly dispersed. And of course, you'll never be able to tell because, of course, it's all white ingredients being put in. So, like I said, you're just going to do that, and I think that's about it for the stirring, and let's just move on to the next step with our bigger bowl. Okay, so now that you got your bigger bowl, I am going to be adding the butter and the 2 sugars, and we will be beating them together for about 2 minutes on medium speed. So let's just get on into that. So again, if you're using just one batch of, you don't want to double your recipe, you're going to be using a 1/2 cup of unsalted butter. But again, like I said, if you guys want to just add less of the salt and use salted butter, or use both the same amount of salt or salted butter, that's up to you. It all depends on how much you like your salt. But again, I don't like my salt, so that is that. And so I'm using unsalted butter, which I really like to use better. I just find that, you know, it's less salty. But that's just me. Again, it's all by preference. So since you guys, if you guys want to make just like a single batch of cookies, you guys are going to be using a 1/2 cup of unsalted butter at room temperature. Now, if you guys keep your butter stored at the fridge, I suggest that if it isn't at room temperature, either take it out the night before or the morning of that you guys are planning on making the cookies, or you guys can definitely, like I do, forget to take it out and just zap it in the microwave for about 10 to 15 seconds, and then it is just at perfect temperature. Try not to melt it fully. So again, I'm doubling it, so I have my 1 cup of unsalted butter at room temperature kind of put through the microwave because, again, I forgot to take it out because that's just my life. So the next thing you guys are going to add is your sugars. So the first sugar that you guys are going to be adding is your light brown sugar. Now, if you guys are not doubling it, it is a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, and it has to be packed. Now, what it means by packed is it has to be tightly packed within the measuring cup. And if you guys are doubling it, of course, a 1/2 and a 1/2 equals 1 cup. But to make this easier for you guys, I will be showing you 2 1/2 cups go into the bowl. So let's just open this. I have to... The brown sugar that I'm using, it is called golden yellow sugar, just because that is the brand that I use. Again, you can go to any store and get brown sugar, light brown sugar, whichever. But this is the one that I will be using. Fairly cheap. It's just a small bag because I don't use brown sugar that often. I'm going to cut this bag open. So let's do this quickly. I'm just going to cut the corner off. Just easier for me to pour it into my cup. So I do have my half a cup of measuring cup, and don't. My recommendation for you guys is when you guys are pouring your brown sugar, like you can kind of see it here, it is kind of not packed. So what I recommend is you guys take like a spoon or a smaller measuring cup. So I'm just going to use my smaller measuring cup here, and just to pack it, you're just going to place it inside and give it a good push, just so you get that sugar pushed down in there and it becomes packed. And do this along the way of pouring, just so it is easier to do. You can see it is definitely packed further and better. So let's just keep filling this up. Okay, so time to add our first packed. See, you'll see that it is packed. This is, of course, a half a cup, and we're going to add another half a cup. Half a full cup in total. Again, that's what a packed brown sugar should look like. It should look like you guys are making sandcastles. Anyways, moving on to the next is your regular granulated sugar, which is just white sugar. You are going to need, again, if making a single batch, 6 tablespoons. So again, I'm going to need 12 tablespoons. I have my tablespoon measurement here. Our first tablespoon, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Our sandcastle officially just broke. The next step, I'm going to be changing angles just a little bit because I need to use the mixer, and again, we're going to mix it on medium speed. Okay guys, so this is the mixer that I use. It is a KitchenAid black. You can get them in multiple different colors, and then of course it's just the regular beater parts that go with it. I'm not exactly sure the term. Now, if you guys are wondering where I got this recipe from, it is not one of my own. It's not one that I made up myself. It is one that I've actually had since I was in high school taking cooking classes. So again, this is my beater, and let's just get mixing. Okay, so now that I just showed you guys my mixer, we're just going to get onto this, and again, beating it or mixing it at medium speed for about 2 minutes, well, until smooth. And again, this is just our butter and our sugar. Now this part can get messy because, you know, we're going to just turn it up a bit more. So this is basically what it's going to look like. Again, it's not, I don't know, it's kind of smooth, but this is kind of the look that you're going to want it to take on. Okay, now moving on to the next step. So again, we're just going to ignore the flour until the 3rd or 4th step. So let's just move on. So the next thing you guys are going to want to add to the mixture that you just mixed up, so your butter and your sugars, you're going to add, of course, if you want to make a single batch of cookies, you're going to want 1 large egg, or 1 egg really. When it says 1 large egg, I just use regular eggs, and it works the exact same, because heaven knows I am not going to go buy large eggs when I don't eat large eggs. So again, regular egg. So again, I'm doubling it, so of course I'm going to be using 2 eggs. First egg. Got our 2 eggs, and now we're going to add our vanilla extract. The one that I really like to use is this pure vanilla extract. This is the one that I highly recommend that you use. It is stronger, so if you're wanting a more stronger vanilla taste, use pure. If you want a less of a vanilla taste, use the artificial, but again, just use less of the pure and you get the same thing. I really like this. This is the way to go for vanilla. So we're just going to add, of course, 1 teaspoon, and because I'm doubling it, like I've said many times, there's our 2 teaspoons. We are just going to go in and mix this up with our butter and our sugar on low speed. Okay, so now that we have that mixed, this is when our flour mixture will come into play. Now we are going to gradually add this. We're going to add our flour, and this is the key where we don't want to over mix the flour. So I'm going to set that mixer aside, and we are going to use a regular spoon. I'm going to use, you guys can use a wooden spoon or whichever, but I'm just going to use this white plastic one. It really works the same. But since we don't want to overmix this, we're just going to gradually add the flour mixture into our, they call this a wet mixture. And I will see you guys once it is mixed. Okay, so now we have it all mixed up. Now it's time to add our chocolate chips. Now again, single use 1 1/4 cups. Since I'm doubling it, it is going to be 2 1/2 cups because 1/4 1/4 is 2/4, which is 1/2. So again, chocolate chips that I will be using are these Chip-Its. Not a very good view of it, but you guys get the gist. Now, this is not a time for snacking. This is usually why I don't bake when Ryan is home, because half of the ingredients get ate. So, here's our 1 cup, 2 1/2 cup, sorry. Now we're just going to take our mixing spoon again, and again, we're just going to mix the chocolate chips in. Now, let's get on to scooping these cookies onto a cookie sheet. Okay, so now we have our cookie batter ready to go. Now this recipe does say that without doubling it, so a single thing makes 15 to 30 cookies depending on the size. Now this is recommended to use like an ice cream scoop or a large heaping tablespoon. So what I have is I do have a smaller ice cream scoop with the removing kind of clicker to it, if you must say. So I just have this kind. You just squeeze it, and then of course you guys can see the thing inside that will scrape the dough out. This one though doesn't scrape all the way to the bottom. It's kind of frustrating, but I'm just going to use this. And again, it recommends 6 to 8 cookies on one sheet, but it all depends on size. So these are going to be smaller ones, so I could probably fit a little bit more, but again, if they run together, it's not that big of a deal. So let's just get on scooping and putting it on the pan. So again, we're just going to fill the scooper just like this, and we're going to place it onto the cookie sheet. First pan done and ready to go, so we're just going to place that on into the oven. So let's just go on and open this oven up. Yes, it is a bit dirty, but again, this oven doesn't work the best, so self-cleaning is basically useless. So we're just going to place those on in to the oven. Don't worry, I didn't burn myself. So now moving on, if they are smaller cookies, it says 8 to 10 minutes. So I'm going to go right in the middle and put 9 minutes just to be safe. And again, after that time, if you guys figure that they aren't going to be done in time, definitely just place them in for a little bit longer. I will see you guys once they come out of the oven. Okay guys, they are officially out of the oven. Thank goodness. Anyways, I did put it in, like I said, for 9 minutes. But I ended up putting it in for another 2 minutes just so it would get more of a goldy brown. So now it is time they have been cooling for a little bit. So of course you're going to cool them for a little bit. And then you guys are going to want to transfer them onto a cooling rack or a wire rack or whichever you guys prefer. So let's just get on into that. Okay, now we have our camera angle. This is the cooling rack that I am going to be using. And we are going to be using this big, huge, giant flipper. So of course the pan is still a little bit warm, so your safety mitts go on, just so I can hold the pan. Or the finishing product of these cookies. I hope you guys really enjoyed this recipe, and I hope to hear you guys down in the comments down below if you guys tried it out and really enjoyed it. I just love sharing baking videos. I guess this is my first, but I'm going to share some more baking videos or cooking videos if you guys are interested. So leave those comments down below if you guys are interested, as well as if you've tried this and liked this video. I'll just keep spanning over these cookies while I talk. And also check out our vlogs that I've only posted one of, so check those out as well. But don't forget to leave those thumbs up. Comment down below, of course, any recipes that you'd like to see me try, or some of your favorite recipes, or something that maybe I should add different to my cookies, or anything along that. Again, I really hope you guys enjoyed. I will leave all of my social media down below, my Instagram and Twitter, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is a message from Holly. Bye-bye. Here's my hand. Bye-bye.